For Pizza Hut, digital is one of the key strategies for the business and the success of the long-term business. I mean, as you can imagine, people don't want to call to place orders for things anymore. They're looking to change that experience to do something digitally. So it's one of the top 3 or 4 business imperatives for us. And one of the reasons I have this role today as Chief Digital Officer, having one person who's accountable for driving the results and the organizational alignment around that is very important. The change in titles from CIO to CDO represented a pretty substantial shift. I mean, as CIO, I had the traditional IT responsibilities for the organization, but with the move to Chief Digital Officer, I've assumed general management responsibilities for the overall digital business. So for Pizza Hut, that's a pretty substantial part of the business where almost 50% of all of our orders now come through our digital channels. Digital is a really vast part of the business, and when we think about digital, we think about how are we engaging with our technology-connected consumers, and not just consumers, but our own team members, the people that work in our restaurants, the people that work in the building. Everyone's adopted technology. They've got this really powerful device in the palm of their hands, and how are we communicating and engaging with them in a way that makes their lives easier? One of the big opportunities we see is like, sort of how do we get our message out to the different channels on which people are viewing things. As you can imagine, YouTube is taking off as a great vehicle for people who are spending a lot of their time watching content. So one of the things we've done in the last 12 months is we've partnered with people we call social influencers. So people who are YouTube celebrities, who have tens of millions of people who watch everything they do, and we've invited them into our facility here and let them create their own pizzas. They name their own pizzas, and then they talk to all their fans about it. Mm-hmm. And that's becoming one of the more interesting ways in which we're, getting our brand message out and getting it to a new audience. One of the things that happened for all of us who are in digital businesses is sort of like paying attention to what's happening with the disruptive companies that are coming forward. So for example, like if I look at Uber and what they've done, a lot of times people want to think, well, wow, they really disrupted the transportation industry, but the reality is they disrupted commerce. We're trying to adopt some of those technologies in our own business, so we're, to bring transparency to the process. We're testing some new technologies in a handful of restaurants where you can now see when the driver leaves with your pizza, you can track him on a map, you can rate your experience when it's over, to really bring some of those disruptive things that disrupted the transportation industry into our own business, but the consumer walks away thinking, wow, that was really cool. For us, it's about really creating a mindset about simplicity. From a big data perspective, I'm a fundamental believer that all the business world is becoming a big math problem. And we have so much data at our fingertips, and how we sort of can target people in a very unique ways, is becoming fascinating. So for example, in our business, weather is a big driver of the business. When it's raining or snowing, people don't want to get out, they want to get some food delivered. And so one of the things we've done in the last year, which is really neat, is we started to sort of mirror the weather patterns in the U.S. as to how we target our consumers. So if we see there's going to be some bad weather hitting in Chicago, we can get an email out to all of our customers in Chicago around 4 o'clock when they're starting to make that consideration about what they're going to have for dinner, and say, hey, don't worry, you don't have to get out tonight. We're here for you. We have a lot of sources we look to when it comes to sort of understanding what's disruptive out there and new ideas that are really going to spur the innovation. I think we rely on sort of not just the startups themselves, but also some of these incubators that are out there that house hundreds of startups and can really help us have a lot of conversations in a short amount of time. And we also are relying on a lot of these sort of like investment banking firms who place a lot of big bets on some of these startups to help us conduct executive briefings with some of them to understand which ones are really going to be game changers for our business. It's less about understanding where we want to be 3-5 years out, and more importantly about how are we organizing internally to move quickly. So something's going to pop up, something's going to be disruptive, something we're going to have to capitalize on something, and it's about doing it quickly and being able to have the culture and the people and the mindset to do that quickly and shift on a dime versus the traditional sort of corporate bureaucracy that can happen and slow things down. The skills can be a big part of it, but to me it's more about the mindset, right? So are they people that, I call them glasses half full, people that can open up the possibilities of how things can get done versus all the reasons why things can't get done. From a digital IQ perspective, the biggest challenges, often center around prioritization. As you can imagine, there are 1,000 ideas on the table, and you can, you really get caught up into an analysis paralysis exercise about how to go after all of them, And so I think it takes a really rigorous process to focus on the ones that are the most beneficial to our customers and the business and go after those with a lot of intentionality.